Cool.
Dr. Ezon will start tonight's Wednesday Wellness. So take it away, Dr. Ezon.
Thank you, Dr. Ariola. So welcome, everyone. See a lot of familiar faces. Hopefully we have some new folks, but this is our Wednesday Wellness, and wanted to introduce some topics and then also see how everyone's doing. So the format of this is to try to improve our education about what we can do to improve our overall health, but specifically diabetes. Lions, let's see, will that not go? Okay. So the Lions Club International took on the role of attempting to help in the treatment of diabetes. It turns out diabetes is 1/4 of the healthcare dollars. And it really is sort of the example of all the chronic diseases: heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, heart disease, and even diabetes, even Alzheimer's is related to the similar things that cause diabetes. So with that, our fearless leader, Lydia Petro-Jones, unfortunately could not be here tonight, but she's been instrumental in starting this about 3 years ago. And with that, although she's not in our chapter, we want to also thank the local Lions Club that is putting this on. So I'm a family and sports medicine, and what I've really been focused on is trying to improve access to quality healthcare in a culturally sensitive manner. So we have our family medicine residency here, and a lot of them have been participating in this program. So you might ask, why, I'm sort of doing this. Well, it turns out in my misspent youth, I took 4 years of Latin, and it turns out in Latin that to become a doctor is Latin to teach. So I should be doing some teaching. And what I feel my role is to take the research and make it a resource for everyone. And to that end, several years ago, with some students over the summer, we came up with a culmination of this called Nudge Away Diabetes. And so this is a book. All the proceeds go to the Lions Club International, especially for their Lions Club camp, which hopefully, now that COVID is improving, we may be able to meet in person again and do immersion type treatments. But we have this as a Kindle book, we have it as a paperback, and also an Audible, because frankly, our ears have more time than our eyes. So if you're interested, that will give you the details of all of this. So at the beginning of the year, you may remember, and I apologize, it's a little bit shocking picture, but we were trying to say for people to have abs by April. So I wanted everyone to lift up their shirt, I'm joking, and show how you did over this first part of the year. So, and the way we were going to do this was called the 3 C's of weight loss. And I just kind of came up with this, but this is sort of how I think of things. And so this is a little review for a lot of people, but I think there's 3 C's. I think you have to look at if you're trying to obtain your ideal body weight and hopefully resolve your diabetes, that you would want to pay attention to the amount of carbohydrates you eat, the amount of calories, and then something called cortisol. Cortisol is a hormone. And so that is a stress hormone. So increasing your carbs increases a hormone called insulin. So it turns out that 2 out of the 3 things on weight loss are hormones as opposed to calories. And a lot of people have really looked at calories, but really they're missing the other 2 components. So to that end, low carb does not mean low taste. I mean, this stuff is very, very good. And it is something that everyone has to find their fuel and what works for them. And so this is one area to be sensitive to. And I've never found anyone who measure their carbs that isn't doing quite well. I see a lot of people who think they're measuring their carbs and they do very poorly. So if you're frustrated and not doing well, think about actually measuring your carbs. And if you want to keep your food super simple, this is from Ted Naiman's book. And this is essentially what I kind of follow. I just have some protein, not a ton, but some protein, and then green leafy vegetables with added fats for taste. And I just do this at the most 2 days a week, a lot of times just 1 day a week. And so that for me works well. Other people have to figure out what works for them, but it makes it super simple just to think about it. And then you don't snack. You just basically have these meals and you eat when you eat and you don't when you don't. The other part of it is It's not a fat fest. You don't just eat a bunch of meat and fat and think you're going to do well, because calories do count. And as we joke, there's fat dogs in Fallbrook from eating too many avocados. So you do want to measure your calories, especially, I mean, if you're really, really over your ideal weight. I saw many people today over 300 pounds. I mean, anything they do will improve their cells. But as you start to get leaner and fitter, then, and if you ever hit a plateau, then it's good to measure your calories. And the goal is to burn fat and build muscle. And then the final thing that people don't really think about is the role of cortisol, that you really need to keep your cortisol low. And if you work really hard, and this is why the night shift workers are heavier than the day shift workers, they work as hard or harder than the day shift, but their cortisol is really elevated because of the stress of shift working. So we consider being a shift worker. I have a lot of people who work in the casinos and work at night, and it's very, very tough on your body. So these are all the things that we look at. So in short, and a lot of you in business, I do believe that what Peter Drucker says, what you measure gets managed. And so I think if you can measure things, I can help you to manage. And the one that I use, and again, I'm not part of this, but this is the one that I use called MyFitnessPal. And it can break down what you eat in terms of your carbohydrates, your fats, your proteins. You can look at your water, and it'll give you your calories. So to that end, I wanted to share with you my journey this year. So I kind of loaded up for the holidays, and I'm actually going to Hawaii next week. So I wanted to try to get ready for Hawaii. So this was my journey this year. So I started off at about 194 pounds, 94.8. And you can see at the end, I did a lot of fasting to get down to what I wanted to. And so, I lost about 20 pounds over, the 3 months. And so, and you can see how it isn't a straight line. My wife's birthday is right in this area. So we had a lot of celebration. I do well until the weekend and then come up. But this is kind of nice to get to learn you and what you do. So this is just one example. What I like to do is have people hopefully share their examples. And so to that end, what I wanted to do is present another resource that I have presented in the past from the residents and the medical students we had, which is our website of switching from carbs to burning fat. So when you burn fat, we call that ketogenesis, where you produce ketones or water-soluble fats. And the big deal is not to eat fat, but actually to burn fat. So I want to switch out of this if I can. Let's see. There we go. So I wanted to show you this website. So can everybody see this at all? Yes? No?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is a website. It's called carbstoketo.org. We started this several years ago. And I did this with our students. And what I wanted to show you that you may not know about is some of the videos that we have. So I have 3 different videos that we've done. And again, if you're looking for more content, you can look at here. But I did want to show you what I call what Tim Ferriss called the slow carb diet. So if someone is just new to this whole realm, this is the video I show. So we'll just show a little of this video and then we'll go from there. So if you can humor me.
It'll wake you up like a foghorn.
Sorry. So I did this for about 15 minutes or so.
I wanted to thank you for coming to the Ideal Bodyweight seminar. This is a culmination of a lot of the research I've done, reading, lectures, as well as patient education. And I know it's a big challenge in our society to get down to our ideal body weight, and that's why I wanted to present these principles to you. So to start off, I sort of use our own body, but we have sort of 5, I think, different ways to get to your ideal body weight. Thoughts are that our body really wants to keep its weight on, and unless you address all of these things, you're not going to have success. Most of us, when we try to obtain our ideal body weight, only do 1 or 2. We'll do nutrition or exercise. We don't realize how important sleep is. We don't realize the whole thermodynamics of weight loss. And then we might try some supplements and medications, even in some extreme cases, some surgery. And my thought is to sort of present all of this in an organized fashion. The first thing to realize is the body's job is to gain weight. Our body's job is to stay alive. And if you look at the caveman, you either got fat or you died back in the day. So starvation was a real danger. Only the strong survived. And there's three sources of energy. There's carbohydrates, there's protein, and there's fats. But back in the day, fats and protein were very common. You go out, shoot something, eat it, that kind of thing. Carbohydrates were rare, and sugar was very, very rare. So realistically, our bodies are sort of set up for more protein and fats, and we don't do well with carbohydrates. And in fact, I used a little phrase that dough is the devil. We love dough. I mean, bread, rice, pasta, cakes, and cookies. Those sweets that really give us a lot of comfort food. But I also give you the question of why do they give you free bread when you go to a restaurant? You ever thought about that? And as my young kids have taught me that strangers have the best candy and puppies, but you're not supposed to use them. So it turns out that bread spikes your sugar probably more than anything, and you actually become hungrier. That's why they give you free bread. If you think about a restaurant, they would go broke if you filled up on bread. So you actually get hungry when you eat that. It turns out that all the bread we have now contains gluten, which is gliadin, which is a protein that actually has a morphine-like effect. And it's kind of started in the 1950s. There was a real worry about having starvation, and we needed to get higher amounts of wheat produced per acre. And so they switched from essentially the amber waves of grain that we all sing about to what's called dwarf wheat, which has 10 times the amount of wheat per acre. But no one really looked at what that does to us as a body. It turns out it increases our appetite. It actually has a morphine-like addiction. You actually become a carboholic. You really want your carbohydrates. And it deposits fat in exactly the wrong place, around your abdomen and actually in your abdomen, around the visceral organs. And so when you sort of want to jingle and say dough is the devil, sugar is Satan, and pasta is poison, and that at least lets you understand where you want to put those sorts of things in your life. So really carbohydrates are optional. When you take biochemistry and suffer through your 20s studying all these things, you find out that the body can make carbohydrates from fats and proteins from something called gluconeogenesis. So the body can survive without carbohydrates. We've heard about the Eskimos just living on whale blubber and protein. But when you go to places that just get grain, they actually get protein malnutrition, and you see the bloated bellies and all the problems in starvation. And too many carbohydrates are actually toxic. That's what diabetes is it's too much sugar. So the body can not make protein or fats from carbohydrates, but we can actually make carbohydrates from protein and fat. So you kind of officially don't need carbohydrates. And then when you look at carbohydrates a little further, we like carbohydrates. They give us a lot of quick energy, but then it goes away, spikes our insulin. And I jokingly say that the only good carb is a vegetable carb, that our weight occurs when insulin gets spiked, that concentrated sugar is harmful because it actually is toxic at high levels, and that fiber is our friend in terms of slowing down the sugar spiking. So juicing is actually bad. If you look at orange juice, we all drink orange juice. One glass of orange juice is about the amount of calories of 3 oranges. Now, I could argue that none of us have ever eaten 3 consecutive oranges, but we've all drank orange juice. That's the difference. When I have an insulin, person, diabetic, who has too much insulin, we give them orange juice to bring back their sugar that quickly. So juice is not necessarily a good thing to do. And in fact, there's just a study showing that the obesity rates in kids is going down because of getting away from juicing kids, from giving the kids juice. Blending is actually good because blending is different than juicing, is that you take all of the stuff you're supposed to eat and blend it, and then you keep the fiber in it. And then that way it cuts down that spiking. So I jokingly say vegetables rock. And then you have to realize that fruit in and of itself is not necessarily the best choices either. It turns out that the fruits are very different than vegetables. We always talk about fruits and vegetables. Well, they're actually quite different. Fruits have been selected to be the sweetest, and fruit juice is all the calories without the fiber. So I jokingly say that fruit, essentially, the ones that we have now are like candy on a stick. If you are going to eat fruit, one of the principles might be to eat the whole fruit. The key is to eat it slowly, and that a small portion once a day is probably the max amount of fruit that you really deserve unless you're a high exerciser. And we've all heard the phrase, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. I sort of have changed that to one small apple eaten very slowly a day keeps the doctor away. And then you have to realize that calories are really a physics problem and doesn't really have a lot to do with what happens to us. If you look at what a calorie is, it's the amount of energy it takes to raise the level of water. They just burn the food in an oven. Well, we're not ovens, we're a biological system. So it's not the calories that really makes us above our ideal weight. It really has to do with what the food we eat does to our insulin. You can eat some doughy things, some starchy things that maybe don't have a lot of calories, but you'll gain weight on it. You can eat some high fiber vegetable things, which more calories in that, and actually lose weight because your body has to process it. So there's a lot of things that go into it. So realize it's what the food does to our hormones and especially insulin. And insulin is best kept low. And so that's why you really want to be on a low sort of sugar sweet diet to keep your insulin low. And then in terms of picking your vegetables, you also have to realize that all vegetables are not equal. That starchy vegetables, such as the white potatoes, sweet potatoes, carrots, and even corn, spike your insulin. What you want, ideally, in a perfect world, is the above the ground green vegetables. Those are the ones like your spinach, your kale, broccoli, cucumbers, asparagus. All of those things are very, very helpful. They alkalinize your body, and they really fill you up. And really, when you look at a good metric is, can you get green vegetables into your diets? And I really think the first step in terms of your ideal body weight for all of us is to ask, how can I get vegetables in my diet today? What really hurts me, and I just feel so sad, is that if you think about the poorest people in our nation are the fattest. If you look at all the statistics, and part of it is because they just can't get vegetables into their diet. I mean, if you're in the inner city, it's tough to find a vegetable stand. So, and then a lot of us are on the go. You know, we're driving all around, and it's hard to, you know, quote unquote, eat a salad on the go. So one of the thoughts is, first off, you have to realize that our goal is to get at least five above the ground green vegetables in a day. Ken Cooper had a nice little phrase. He's the guy that, a physician that started the Cooper Aerobics Institute, and he came up with the coined phrase aerobics. But he had a little jingle, I heard him talking. It's like 5 is fine and 9 is divine. If you get 9 above the ground green vegetables in a day, which is 3 per meal, that's a lot of vegetables. But if you ate those first, we'd do amazing. And so you want to get at least 5 above the ground green vegetables in. And one of the thoughts is, how do you do that? And one of the things I kind of recommend, that's been recommended in a lot of different books, is to consider blending, where you sort of sip a salad. You take your salad that you're supposed to eat, put it in a blender, put some water in it, and then kind of blend it up, and you can sip it all through the day. So you're getting your vegetables, but in a way that you can do it in a regular situation. In my office, I don't get lunch, so I just sip a salad all through the day. I put enough mango in there, just to, you know, that's my one little fruit for the day, to get it so it's a little bit sweeter, but just very, very low amounts, the least amount I can do, but sip it all through the day. And if you can do that, you can get your vegetables in. And I jokingly say, a lot of people say, well, I don't like vegetables. Well, I just kind of flip that around and say, you're not hungry. I had a buddy of mine who was a astronaut with NASA, and he'd have to be on 24-hour deployment right away. He'd get his kids in the car, they drive, and he couldn't stop for food and stuff. So he would just open a can of beans, stick a fork in it, and pass around to the kids. And his wife was like, Johnny is 3 years old. You know, he's not eating. He's going to starve. And this friend of mine was quite funny. He goes, not hungry. He goes, once Johnny's hungry, he'll eat the beans. You know, if you're stuck on a desert island, at some point, you will eat the vegetables. So, you know, when you go to a restaurant and they have the dessert tray, you could, you know, especially if someone else is paying for the meal, oh, I can get the whichever. But, you know, the cheesecake or whichever. But if they pass around a vegetable tray at night, or I mean, after the end of the meal, you probably wouldn't take the broccoli or the cauliflower and stuff. So realize that we can always eat sugar and desserts, but fruit you have to eat first. We'll circle back on all that. So as I jokingly say, if you don't like vegetables, you're just not hungry. So eat your vegetables first, and then you can get those into your diet. Protein is one of the things that we actually probably don't get enough of, especially if you start to exercise. Realize that probably the recommendation on protein, when I ask people how much protein do you get in, most folks don't know. Realize you want to get about half your body weight in grams of protein a day, up to a maximum of your body weight in grams of protein a day. So if you weigh 120 pounds, you should at the most get 120 grams of protein. So anywhere from 60 to 120 grams. If you're 180, it'd be 90 to 180 grams of protein. And so realize 6 ounces of chicken is about 50 grams, and that you want to try at least twice a week to get cold water fish in to try to get your omega-3s and those sorts of things. So sometimes bumping up your protein, decreasing your carbs is a nice little ploy. The other thing to realize is fats are actually our friend. You know, you guys in the room are about my age, and we all grew up in the 70s where it's like low fat, high carb sort of thing. And we've got obesity and diabetes, thank you very much. So now we need to kind of circle back and think about that. And the thoughts are that actually fats and carbohydrates are deadly, but fats in and of themselves are actually quite satisfying. Now you want to stay away from the trans fats and the hydrogenated fats, but like your olive oils and your nuts are actually quite satisfying. And even though they have more calories, like we talked about, they actually satisfy you when you eat less. So it's a good way to consider using olive oil and nuts in your daily diet, which will cut down the amount of food that you eat. So what's the best diet when it's all said and done? I always go back to customization of care. It's like, well, the best diet is one you're going to eat. And I jokingly say that there's all these thousands of diet books and nutrition books because they have to customize it to you. So the best diet is one you're going to eat. But a couple of principles: if you say no to dough, yes to vegetables, all the good diets recommend that. You want good protein and good fats. And then realize that not just what you eat, but how you eat is very important. Timing is very important. One little rule is eat like a king for breakfast and like a pauper for night. You know, a lot of people, if you want to gain weight, skip breakfast, eat lunch, and then have a late dinner. You'll put on weight. If you flip that around and had a good breakfast, medium lunch, no dinner, you'll lose weight. And it just has to do with how our body's set up. Small portions are best. It's good to eat on small plates. Get those little kid plates out that are very colorful, because we're all told, finish our plate. So use small utensils. And then eat slowly. There's a nice book out called Drop Dead Healthy. Funny book. But he got a royalty for the book and could do anything he wanted, hot yoga and paleo diets, all these different things. And the top 3 things he did was he found that were helpful was one, eating with either a shrimp fork or chopstick, something you're not good at to slow you down. And then also not having a big plate, so a small plate. And then he did a treadmill desk. So those are all like 3 little practical things you could do. Because if you eat good stuff, but you eat it very fast, you spike your insulin, you gain weight. So one of the thoughts is, cut up into 4s, eat a bite, go away, do something. Part of the European situation, we always talk about, the Europeans are thinner than Americans are. Part of it isn't so much that they eat better, because you can see some of their foods are quite high in certain nutrients and things and calories, but they take a long time. They might take 2 hours to eat lunch. They have their wine. I mean, those things, slowing everything down helps you, because as you know, if you eat real fast, you can eat a lot. If you slow down, you don't eat as much. So it's really important to realize we have like a 20-minute lag. So it's good to eat a little bit and then wait and then eat, and you'll actually eat less. And then don't leave nutrition for chance. If you wait till you're hungry, you'll eat just about anything. So one of the thoughts especially is to think about bringing your own lunch. That's kind of what I do today. But if you are stuck and you have to eat fast food, realize there's no slow food out there. So you can sort of salvage it. Maybe a taco salad, eat the inside. Turns out Mexican food is the best food, because you can eat the inside of a taco salad, maybe the inside of a burrito. And then protein style burgers at some of the places, just don't have the bread on it, and then try to slow down when you eat. And then, because we're not robots, we are people, there's a lot of people that recommend a cheat day. You eat very good for 6 days, and on the 7th day, you eat very, very bad. I mean, even God took a day off, and I think we follow that rule. But cheating once a week, because all of us are going to cheat, we're all humans. So the thoughts are, if you cheat once a week, you lessen the psychological stress, you actually spike your metabolism, you give your body permission to lose weight. Because if you were in a situation where you had no food, your body would eventually try to protect itself by slowing its metabolism. But if once a week you spike it, you seem to reset it and things. You also are not, family dynamic wise, you're not that little, the guy in the corner that's sucking on celery and he's the weird uncle over there and kind of stuff. You actually get to engage your family, and then you get to celebrate it. And then the thought is, when you look at it, you probably have about the same breakfast. So now you're down to just cheating 2 meals a day, which turns out to actually help your situation. Because if you have a little bit all through the week, you sabotage yourself. If you do it once a week, your chances are a lot higher. Then after a couple of months, usually what happens, you only have like 1 cheat day a month. Because the reason is that every time you cheat, you get really sick that night. Because bread has the highest salt content of most of the foods we have. That night, you are miserable. You're thirsty, you're bloated, and you're like, like the Alka-Seltzer commercial, I can't believe I ate the whole thing. And the next morning, you vow to go back on your diet, and you're going to be real good. But by Friday, if Saturday's your cheat day, by Friday, you have amnesia. I wasn't that. Like, I could try this again. And it's actually kind of a nice sort of setup. And then eventually you start to get where you really only getting down to a very little amount of time. So it's a nice way to realize you're humans, cut yourself some slack. And then the other thing to realize is that we have different kinds of fuel in our body. We have sugar called glycogen in our liver. That's what we like to run off of. It's a high octane kind of a thing. We've all heard about marathoning, where they actually hit the wall and then switch over to what's called fat metabolism. And in fat metabolism, what we're actually doing is starting to do a different kind of metabolism that's a little slower and not nearly as much fun. So realize that sugar's in our liver, fats are in all of our love handles, our thunderbuds, our all our visceral fat. And then when you look at this, there's let's say you go home today, and on the counter you haven't got lunch, and so you're there, and now there's a cupcake and there's a thing of lard. Which one would you eat? Just like our bodies, we'll go for the sugar first. Now, if you were on a desert island again, and all you have is this bucket of lard, eventually at some point you will eat the lard, and that's kind of how our bodies are. So for people to literally burn fat, they need to burn through all their sugar to try to get to actually burning their fat. So there's a term called ketosis. You might have heard of ketoacidosis. That's what diabetics get. But ketosis is a normal, healthy phenomenon in our body. We've all heard about trying to go to bed early and eat, or sort of eat early so that we don't eat late at night. And the reason that all works is because it takes about 12 hours to deplete your glycogen in your liver. So early dinner is a better dinner. And in fact, one of the best things to do is try to go to bed hungry a little bit. And if you have to, do something, take some melatonin, something to help you to sleep so that you don't eat late at night. And it's far better to actually go to bed and sleep rather than to eat late at night. And that's why it's a challenge for shift workers and things who eat late through the night for multiple reasons. But one of the things we look at is trying to get so you have at least 12 hours a day, like say 6 to 6, not having any food. Now you could be burning fat. To take this a step further, and I'm not advocating this, but just to let you know what the Tour de France folks type do, you've seen the cyclists who are wafer thin. The way they get like that is they don't have breakfast, they eat an early dinner, don't have breakfast, get up and they'll do a 4-hour what's called a hammer ride, where they'll ride their bike without any food, pretty hard. I'm not saying this is healthy, I'm just telling you what they do. And then they actually take some sleeping pills and sleep till dinner. And they're really lucky they sleep till the next day. So you just burn all through your glycogen, and now you're just burning on fat metabolism. Very painful, not necessarily healthy. What's probably healthy for us mere mortals is to think about, and this comes from Just Pedal, a book that talks about some reasonable things to do, is twice a week, wake up and don't have breakfast. Go out for a 90-minute slow walk or slow pedal, wait another hour, and then eat. Now you've gone all through your glycogen through the night. Now you're continuing to burn, and that's a nice way to finally get to fat metabolism. And I think twice a week, that kind of cleans out the system. Now, getting back to exercise, which is how I make my living, there's two kinds of exercise. There's aerobic and there's resistance exercise. But I jokingly say you can't exercise yourself in your skinny jeans. Basically, I make my living off of people trying to do this because our body is so efficient at exercise. I'm not saying you shouldn't exercise. The studies show if you don't change your diet, it takes 10 hours of exercise a day, essentially walking the Appalachian Trail, which I got one of my patients to do this past year, and he lost 25 pounds and ate amazingly amounts of food because he was walking all day. We don't have that luxury, and we're not going to do that. But really, there's something magical about an hour of cardio a day. 6% of the week just walking and moving is amazing for our bodies, because it's not the calories you burn while you exercise, is that bumps up your metabolism for the next 2 to 4 hours later on. And that's why an hour a day of walking is good. So I jokingly call it LSD, long slow distance. And then now and then you can do high intensity intervals, but that's for down the road. For most of us mere mortals, an hour 6 days a week is just the ticket. I mean, it does amazing things. And you can walk, you don't have to get your heart rate up that high. Just walk as if you're going somewhere. Like you've got some place to go to. Don't just kind of waddle, but walk about 3 miles an hour. And it's amazing. But think about that. If you're a 150-pound person, a mile of walking is only 100 calories. So you're only burning 300 calories, like half a bagel or something. I mean, it's amazing how little calories you burn exercising. That's why the equation never made sense when you looked at, how much do I have to exercise? I mean, a pound of fat is 3,500 calories. You'd have to run a marathon and a half if you just looked at the physics of it. But we're a biological system. It turns out that the exercise helps us to bump up our metabolism. It actually helps us to clear our mind. It's neogenic. It helps our cortical function, and it helps us to sleep. All those are very good things. So I jokingly say, every day you should ask yourself, have you moved today? And we kind of kid around. Has anything moved? Jiggling doesn't count, although it actually does a little bit. Weight training is very helpful too. You should weight train a half hour twice a week. Tim Ferriss talks about this in his book, 4 Hour Body, which is a half hour twice a week, which is an hour a week. So that really is 4 hours a month. That's all you really need to do to weight train, to put on good muscle, especially back muscle. And I think that's very helpful. Now, in terms of exercise, I'm a big believer in never working out, because work is a 4-letter word. It's why we like to retire. So I don't think working out really has gotten people very well or very far. What I think changes the whole game, as we talked a little bit about, is training. Once you train for something, it changes everything. And I ask people this: if someone's going to give you $1 million to complete an endurance event in, say, 3 months, what would you do? I mean, $1 million, tax-free, all that kind of stuff. You would start to think about ways, and things that you can think about doing is walk a half marathon. No, don't run. The joke I have is you should never run to get in shape. You should be in shape and then start running, because it's not fair to your knees and ankles and hips. Try looking at a metric century bike ride. If you do things in metric, it just sounds farther. So 61 miles is actually 100 kilometers. Try a century ride. Do a 1 mile swim, bag a peak, go to San Jacinto, Mount Whitney. Sign up for Team in Training, or in Temecula here, we have this hikebiketemecula.org. There's a new thing now, Walk to the Moon. It's 230,000 miles. So you get a bunch of people together and we're all participating to try to functionally walk to the moon, whatever it takes. I jokingly say that America's losers are America's biggest gainers the next year. You all hear about them gaining back the weight. The people that keep the weight off long term are those that are always training for something. We're such losers that we make up our own events. We have this thing called the Summer Solstice Century, longest day of the year. It's June 21st. And so it turns out the pier at Oceanside, the top Mount Palomar, is exactly 50 miles. So the century in bike riding is kind of like a marathon. It's 4-to-1 in terms of running. So we actually start very early in the morning, ride at the top of Mount Palomar, and then ride back, just to say we did it. But it's good suffrage. It's about 5,000 feet of, it's about, I think, 9,000 feet of climbing. So you have to be in shape to do it. So it's something that we talk about, joke about. But something like that helps you to get in very good shape and stay in good shape. And you always have something about every 3 to 4 months. So if you really want to get in shape, look down the road about 4 months, sign up for something, put some money, put some skin in the game, tell your wife, tell your friends, tell everybody you're going to do this. And that's but walking a half marathon is really amazing. Weight training is very good. We talked about this. You really want to do about an hour, 6 days, twice a week. And you really want to work on back exercises. If you can do that, that helps your posture tremendously, takes away a lot of the neck pain. Sleep is an underappreciated part of this whole situation. All night shift workers are heavier than daytime shift workers. the nurses at night are heavier than the nurses in the day. You can't tell me they don't work very hard at night. They work very hard, but they don't have as good a sleep because cortisol and leptin hormones are interrupted if you don't get good sleep. Sleep apnea is underdiagnosed. If you are a snorer, you probably have sleep apnea, and you're not. It's going to be very hard to lose weight. Now, you're losing weight will actually clear your sleep apnea, but until then, you may need to get that taken care of. You need about 6 to 9 hours of sleep, and you really should come up with a sleep ritual. One of the thoughts is, cut down the stimulants at night. Keep your room so it's cool and dark. Come up with how you sleep the best. Consider using bed only for sleep and activities like that. Sort of lower the lights before you go to bed. Get into a situation so that you can get very good sleep, and try not to get too far off of it on the weekends, because again, your body, it's hard for it to reset. And then again, if you snore, think about getting a sleep apnea test. Now, one of the ways, if you think about how little you burn with exercise, the flip side is that literally cold melts fat. If you look at our body's job is to stay alive, and our body knows that it doesn't want to starve, but it doesn't want to freeze. But you'll freeze quicker than you'll starve to death. And so one of the things that we look at is that if you sort of tell your body that you're starting to get cold, then it starts to burn fat. And our body will burn fat to stay warm if it freezes, if it feels like it's in danger of freezing. And I flip this around. Have you ever seen a fat surfer? I mean, surfers, literally, nothing against surfers. My son's a surfer, but they ride waves. They don't even climb waves. I mean, but they're in water. And water is amazing in terms of helping you to stimulate what's called brown fat. Brown fat is not the white fat on our belly. It's usually up around our upper back and upper chest. So when this gets cold, this is sort of our core. Our body goes, hey, I'm freezing, I better start burning fat. So it turns out our hands are what determine if we feel cold. We've all been outside and it's kind of cold and we do this, or we'll put our hands in our pockets. But we're not any warmer, it's just our hands are warmer. A fun thing to do if you have a pool with a jacuzzi is go in the cold pool, put your hands in the warm jacuzzi. And my daughter used to do this, we call it Titanic. And she would put her hands and then she would be able to feel, and flip side too, if you're in the jacuzzi, you put your hands in the cold pool, even though you're in the jacuzzi, you'll feel cooler. It turns out our hands are very, very important for us to feel warm or feel cold. So gloves allow you to feel warm even when your brown fat is cold. So one of the little tricks that we kind of do is think about stimulating your brown fat. So one of the thoughts is to try to stay as cool as you can or as cold as you can if you want to lose weight. A couple of goofy little things that have been recommended. The last 3 minutes of your morning shower, shut off all the hot water back into the shower and let it hit you up here. It'll wake you up like a foghorn. That's a way to do it. You can drink ice water first thing in the morning. A goofy thing I have is, in our car, we have these things called glove compartments. Nobody ever has gloves in them. Actually, I have gloves in mine. I take out the gloves, I put the gloves on and turn the air conditioner on full. Now I'm driving around, it could be, a hot day, but I've got gloves on because I'm trying to be as cold as I can. And it just is a very easy way to, have your body kind of be working while you're just driving around. And if you look at Michael Phelps, he gets 12,000 calories a day. He eats massive amounts. It's kind of a big thing during the Olympics. But part of it is that he's in water about 3 to 4 hours a day. Now, he exercises about 8,000 calories or so, but it's about 1,000 calories an hour in 80-degree water. Even though 80-degree water, going to Hawaii, we love going to 80 degrees, but that's actually cold in our bodies are 98.6. So there's still this differential, and you can get hypothermic if you're in the water too long. Water has 25 times the conductivity of air. So whenever you can, try to get in water. The other is wear more gloves, less sweaters. It sounds a little goofy, but I have scuba gloves, and when I surf with my son, who's very embarrassed by me, I don't have a wetsuit on, but I have gloves on. And so it's just a little trick, and you can kind of try that. And then the final two things have to do with supplements and even some medications.
So I'll go ahead and stop there. That's available on that website called Carbs to Keto. And so if you're interested in looking at more, I have a couple other videos on that. So with that, I wanted to have time for sharing, but any thoughts or anybody have anything that they want to share? Otherwise, I'll start calling on people, but that's what we call the slow carb diet. Like if I have someone who's never really done any of this, I like them to start on a slow carb where they just try to be good 6 days a week as they learn it. And it may take them months, but eventually, hopefully they'll realize it's important and they'll probably lose, if you're pretty good size, you'll lose 20 pounds, but then you'll plateau. And then to go to the next level, that's when you'd want to even lower your carbohydrates even more. But anyone had any thoughts about that, or has anyone seen that before?
Not a thought, but I have a question. You were talking about weight training a half hour a day. How many days a week was that?
That was 2 days a week. And that comes from the book, what I highly recommend is called the 4-hour body. So if you look at the math, so a half hour twice a week is 1 hour a week times 4. That's why it calls it the 4-hour body.
Okay,
But and it's a very interesting. He only does one set, very slow. So you'll do only like 8, like say push-ups, but you do them very, very slowly so that you do 7 so that the 8th one is really, really hard. And all of this is fatigue in a nice way so that your body will get stronger. You have time to recover.
okay.
So that's his thought. Ted Naiman, which is good to start with, but Ted Naiman is the other guy with that called the PE diet. He recommends 3 sets every day. So there's a lot of different ploys. And so when you're first starting, I like the 1/2 twice a week, see how good you get on that. If you stagnate, that's when it's good to either talk to me or someone like me to give you the next level to go to. Have you done that before at all there, Tom?
Well, I've been doing some exercises now. It's a combination of weights and stretching and so forth. And I do that an hour, and I try to do it at least 4 days a week. And if I can hit 6, that's great, but sometimes life gets in the way.
No, that's great. And that's the big deal, because at the end of the day, we also want you to have strong bones, and you get strong bones from strong muscles. That's why it's so important.
Mhm.
Good. Anybody else? Henry, what's the
I know.
latest with you? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh,
Are you able to
hi,
hear me?
Stacy.
Hello. I do Pilates every single day. I think that helps me. It's about a 50-minute workout. But I think what mainly I do that for, I've come to realize, is the cortisol levels, to keep my stress level low. And I think it's a real key for me. It's not so much for the weight management, but it's definitely for the cortisol levels.
Maybe a lot of people here maybe have not done Pilates. Can you explain what Pilates is and how it does lower your cortisol level?
I go to a little Pilates studio here in Temecula, but it's just a little organized event where you work with a reformer, and it helps with strength, flexibility, balance, is on a moving apparatus. It's just all kinds of activities just to keep you functional. Especially, I notice as I age, it's just it's a must. But it's organized. It's just what I need. It just works for me. But I get a lot out of walking to the market too. I do a lot of walking, hiking, that sort of thing. I think the older I get, I think it just gets a little bit more simpler. I used to think it was so complicated, and I used to think I had to have a certain workout routine or a certain time, or I made it really, really, really complicated, but it's just easy.
Yeah, if I could jump in. So Pilates was invented by a guy named Joe Pilates, actually to get people out of the World War I concentration camp. And they were so bad off that they couldn't stand up. So they were on this horizontal thing that's ultimately become what's called a reformer. And there's springs that you push on. But it's very, very good for posture. Yoga is good, but it frankly is only pushing. Pilates also does essentially what you do in yoga, but then they also add in the pulling. And the pulling is what helps your back. And again, at the end of the day, I think the goal is to become lean, fit, flexible with balance strength. That's how you become durable. And also during the class, in essence, would you say this, Stacey, that you're essentially uncomfortable all the time because they're trying to shift it up so that you don't build a tolerance to it. So in essence, in a Pilates class, you don't do much thinking, you just do what they say. They're real big on breathing. They want to hear you breathe. And all of those things I think are very, very helpful. And so I'm a big fan of Pilates. Anybody else?
Jerry, my biggest problem is Henry Amprin. I'm stuck at 220. I'm eating once a day, and it seems like the only time I'll drop below that is if I don't eat at all, like if I fast for a day or two. So that's the only time, and then it creeps back up.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So first off, good to see you. The big thing is a lot of people, I think it's important that if you are in a plateau, the thing that always works is just what you said, is fasting. So I think of, and essentially what I have is what's called a fasting focused lifestyle. Where can I fast? And then you have to figure out from your body, how much should you fast? So for a lot of people, just not eating breakfast is an intermittent fast. Not having snacks is an intermittent fast, but it may be that you only eat one meal a day, but it may be that you need to do a 48-hour fast once a week. And so for a lot of times, we just don't eat on Mondays. But the other thing is to learn very carefully how to do prolonged fasting. So the nice thing about fasting, as the sort of saying says, it makes up for all sins and evils. So you're going to get together, like just recently it was Easter for some of us, or it's Ramadan, or it's Passover, whatever it is. But you're probably going to have quite a bit of food there. In a sense, it's going to be a feast. So that's where you alternate that with the fasting. So I do encourage you to maybe focus on the fasting more. And if you can, consider doing like a 72-hour fast, just to really break through. You'll lose a ton of weight. And then just kind of keep learning that and figure out what should be your balance between eating and fasting, and see what works best.
I'll give it a go. Thank you.
All right, let me know. Hey, how is your daughter? Is
She's
Ashley?
doing fine. She's gonna be coming home for a couple days in May or in June. And
Maybe tell everybody what she's doing.
she's a new resident at University Hospital in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and she's busier than busy being a resident. So
But
She's
doing
doing
emergency medicine, right?
yes. So she's busy.
Yeah, and it's a lot of stuff going on. Well, good.
Absolutely.
And maybe
And
tell
thank you, by
everyone.
the way, for encouraging her.
Maybe tell everybody what you do.
Oh, I'm the assistant fire chief at Disneyland right now. And before that, I worked 35 years for the city of Los Angeles.
Yeah, so he's at Disneyland, so you might see him there. He's a celebrity.
Not quite, not like you.
All right. Anybody else have anything that's going on?
I have a question, Dr. Eisen.
Yes, Raghi.
Is
Fire
there
away.
any relation between diabetes and blood pressure?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I can tell you what happened. I was pretty good in blood pressure. And of course, I follow my diabetes more than watching my blood pressure. All of a sudden, I just decided to check myself out. And I realized the numbers are not what I was expecting to see. And basically, I start thinking what I'm doing wrong. I read a lot about blood pressure. And I realized the nuts I am eating is salty nuts. So I changed that, and within a few days, my body starts turning back in blood pressure. It just went to more normal. And then I started reading and I realized there was an article talking about the diabetes. People have more tendency of having blood pressure. Is it the right statement or
Yes,
not?
no, it's exactly. I mean, the two things that they sort of demand that we do is because diabetes does affect your kidneys, and kidneys affect your blood pressure, as well as the diabetes affects the heart. So they do want us to protect for the cholesterol as well as for the blood pressure. And so they do recommend and frankly demand that every diabetic is on a blood pressure medicine called the ACE inhibitor to protect your kidneys. So that's why that's that correlation. It's all three of those are tight. And most diabetics pass away of heart disease, which is blood pressure and cholesterol in terms of the ratios of everything.
Okay, thank you.
Delia, do you want to share about the Teresita? Are you there?
Hello, sorry,
Hi.
I'm driving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yes, I wanted to remind everybody that we have a cleaning dates on May 13 to 15 in Teresita Pines. So that's, I just put it in the
Yeah,
chat.
so explain, you mean going up there and cleaning?
Yes, we have a weekend that we can go clean, help to be prepared for summer.
Okay,
So we paint a little bit, we move rocks, we move things that, so it's ready when the camps come.
and then how do you find out about that? Because you probably have to tell people that you're coming up there, right? Do you have to sign up somewhere?
Yeah, we have to sign. I was about to put in the chat the link.
Okay,
I'm going to put in the chat the link so everybody can see.
okay, and
Thank
then
you,
do you
doctor.
get to
much.
stay in the cabins, or do you bring your own tent, or what do you recommend?
We have the cabins there. We just register how many people we are going. Children can go after 7 to help. Everybody can help. No, it's everything there. We just need to bring towels but every cabin have showers, water, and yeah, and we have breakfast together, and it's prepared by the Teresita Pines.
But do you know how
Also,
big, how many acres do they have there? It's a kind of big.
I can't tell. It's big,
Right.
but
So
I
it's
can't tell how many acres. But
Yeah, just to explain it to people. So it's essentially a series of cabins and things up in Wrightwood, and it is through the Lions Club International, and it's where I met a lot of the folks here doing an immersion. So they do different. It's people get away, they go up to this place, and we can do like they do children's camps. We did the one adult camp, but it is an amazing thing to have available. So if you have any interest, that might be an exciting thing to do, to go up there and help to clean up. It's in the woods. It's very pretty. So it is pretty amazing. But thank you very much for sharing that. And we'll try to get the word out if anyone's interested. That might be an exciting time.
also group of deaf that the children that they cannot hear, they go to, and children that the group of the children with diabetes and the family come. Yes, thank you so much.
Okay.
Dr.
No, that's great. That's very exciting.
I'm
It's
going
good
to
that
take-
it's finally open. It's been closed for like 2 years.
Yes, I'm going to put the link so everybody can search. They want to go
Okay.
and help and spend a weekend with the family. There, it's very, very, very pretty. Thank
Okay,
you.
well, be careful if you're driving to put that in there.
Thank you, doctor.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions, or let me know how they're doing?
Tom, again, I have a question about the 72-hour fast. I've gone 48 hours. I've not tried to do 72, and I assume that's consecutive hours, correct?
Correct. And again, you want to be very safe about it. So there are several, and again, I'm not saying everyone should do a 72-hour fast, but the rationale about a 72-hour fast is that 72 hours is a very long time. But if you're able to safely do 72 hours, then it's really simple to do a 24 or a 48-hour fast. It's sort of like if you want to make a 10-mile hike easy, do a 20-mile hike, because 10 will always be easier. So it's a psychological ploy. My longest has been 5 days, and that was a goofy thing to do. But again, it is something that I like the idea that we get over our fear of fasting and understand that it's a very powerful tool. All the big, thinkers, Jesus, Buddha, the Prophet Muhammad, all recommend fasting. So fasting is not starvation. Fasting is timed eating. Ramadan is going on right now, and they fast during the day and only eat once at night. So they're actually saying that. So we sort of kid around that if fasting was so good, Lent would not just be 6 weeks, it'd be all the time. So think about, especially if you are struggling with your weight, having what we call a fasting focused lifestyle, where you do fasting on a regular basis. Like, for example, we had a thing where my daughter was getting married, and we wanted to #shed to wed. And so we would only eat 5 meals a day, 5 meals a week. we would eat on Sunday and fast until Tuesday, eat on Wednesday, fast till Friday. So you would do 2 48s a week. So that's 96 hours of fasting. And again, I'm not saying to do that. I'm just saying that's an option. The big deal on that is you gotta, if you're gonna do that, that's when you drink salty water, because when you don't eat carbs, you don't retain salt and you get lightheaded and dizzy. So if you're gonna do that, I highly recommend, there's a nice book called Life in the Fasting Lane by Jason Fung. And for most people, 36 hours is really amazing. But even 18 hours, just don't have lunch is okay. Do a 23, that works well. There's so many different ways. And I'm real big that everybody has to find out what works for them. Everyone's different, but be safe. That's the number one thing. Does that answer your question?
Well, yes, I didn't get my mic unmuted there, but yeah, that did. I made a few notes here. Give me something else to.
Yeah, and if you get lightheaded or dizzy, just break the fast.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, everybody's okay with overeating. Everybody feels like, oh, you're starving people, or you're going to cause an eating disorder if you fast. But an eating disorder is a psychological situation. It's not a physiologic. But fasting is something that used to be a very common practice, and we've gotten away from it. But it is the most powerful thing. And it's really just a simple formula. If you don't eat, you'll lose weight. And that works out really well. It's just really goofy. But it's really good for mental clarity too.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Okay. You look good, Tom.
Thanks. Appreciate it. I
All
don't
right.
get that a lot.
Hey, Gail. No, no. Gail, what's the latest? You've been quiet.
Hi, I'm good. We've just been really busy. We've actually been on lots of little vacations and going out with the tent and doing things. And can I share some really good news?
Oh, yes, yes.
So you know, I used to have Hep C and all that, and I'm cured
Right.
of that. And I've had fatty liver disease and, you know, a lot of different things going on with my liver. So I had a scan done just the other day, and I have absolutely a super healthy, restored liver, no fatty liver disease, and no scar tissue or anything left over from the Hep C. So it has cured, because I used to have fatty liver still, but I lost that, you know, 35, 40 pounds. So that was like really good news.
Oh,
So,
that's congratulations. That's very, very good.
yay, no more fatty liver.
Maybe remind people how we met each other and how much you disliked me when you met me.
No, I really liked you. No, I had what started was I had a knee injury actually. And the same day that my knee was hurt really bad, I was told by a friend that I should get in touch with you because she had some knee issues and you were a great doctor for that. But the same day I found out that my blood work came back that I had diabetes. And so kind of my knee, diabetes, being fat, the whole thing all kind of transpired under your little umbrella that day. And so he kind of sent me on this new routine, and I loved it, because I think one of the favorite thing I liked about you is you started me slow with better eating and getting my diabetes under control, but that you let me figure it out myself with your help. I think that was really helpful, because I would come to you with certain issues and you'd say, well, why don't you try this? And almost everything you've talked about tonight, I've done it and done it all. And recently I gained a few pounds, I'll be honest with you, but you know, I'm back on track again, and I know how to do it. We're talking like, you know, just 3 or 4 pounds, but I used to just go up and gain another 20 or 30. And now I stay within 5 pounds. I'm not all the way to my goal weight yet, but I'm pretty much diabetes free. I don't have any issues anymore. I don't think. We need to do blood work still and follow up, but my knee is all better. I mean, so much happened getting off all those carbs and the inflammation that I had in my body. I have really good blood pressure. So, I mean, it was all connected. So anyway, I don't know if that helps at all.
No, that's great. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, great job. I'm glad to have you back again.
Yes, we were busy and gone a lot. Sorry, we were gone on Wednesdays. I said, I need to get back. I need a little more encouragement to get back on track again.
Yeah, if you do miss it, we do have the, some of the students have set up our Nudge Away Diabetes YouTube channel. So if you
Okay.
have friends and they're wanting to know what this is all about, you can check that out.
Okay.
So, anybody else before we wrap up? Ed, do you want to share? Get our last one. You have to unmute, sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying. Okay. No, I don't think I have anything to add to the group tonight,
Well,
unfortunately.
tell them how you're feeling.
Oh, I feel great. Yeah, like I think I told you the other day, you asked me how I was feeling. I says, I'm feeling much better than I have any right to, consider my age and everything else. But no, I feel fantastic. I mean, the other day I bought 20 sacks of mulch and loaded them in the car and got home and unloaded them and spent yesterday spreading them around the yard. So those are about 50-pound bags. So yeah, I'm feeling great. I'm in, pretty good shape. So
Do you mind telling people how old you are?
I'm 82.
Yeah, so he's amazing. So this is all good. So, all right, well, we're at the top of the hour. So Ed, thank you very much for that. So really
Pleasure.
appreciate everyone. Keep Lydia in your prayers and thoughts. She's recovering, but hopefully we'll have her back again. Andy, anything I need to know about the Lions? But that's really good about Teresita Pines because it could be very exciting.
Not at this point, but I think it was really good at the Teresita Pines. And like I said, I think they're trying to get it so they can have another camp up there. And hopefully, Dr. Izon, you'll be able to get people up there for a diabetes camp coming up. I think Lydia's working on a date and hopefully, and you guys would all be invited. You're more than welcome to come up because it's just going to be more of what they are doing here. And it's time to be away and you can learn a lot of things about what Dr. Izon has done here in the past. So
Right. So can you guys see my slides?
yes.
So next one is May the 4th. And so I like
Of
that
course.
day because it is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. Sorry. And the big thing is you must unlearn what you have learned. So I thought I would throw out my Star Wars little theme out there. All right. Well, that's been a very nice night. I really appreciate everyone supporting each other. I mean, all of us together are how we get everyone better. So if you have anyone that could use this, let us know. We're gonna try to get the residents involved. Or a lot of the graduate medical education with the locally is going good. We're hoping to get a sports medicine fellowship. I'll have some fellows involved. So the future is quite bright. And I just really appreciate everyone that's been involved. And we're gonna try to keep getting better till we literally nudge away diabetes.
And remember to invite anybody, you guys share the link. You're able to do that for that day. So just share it to anybody you may know that's still fighting this disease.
Yeah, Henry, tell Ashley to come give a talk.
All right, I'll do that. When I talk to her,
Just guilt her into it. That'll be good.
I'll just told her she had to do it.
No, I mean, I got her into school. Come on, tell her she owes
I
you.
know, she owes you.
There you go.
All right. Thank
Have
you,
a good night.
everybody.
Thank you.
All right.